Good morning, everyone. Link CXO welcomes all of you to this webinar on digital marketing landscape India post-COVID scenario. I'd like to start with introducing the vision of Link CXO and then take lead with the speakers. Link CXO is an advanced AI-based platform exclusively meant for C-suite executives. We at Link CXO are building an exclusive community of leaders who can grow and influence the social world around them. Is Mr. Abhijit Dandekar. He's the CEO and MD at Saintio Technologies. He's a former Director, Solution IT and BPO, former Executive Director and VP at Thesis Technologies Middle East, FZE. Welcome to the event, sir.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My name is Abhijit Dandekar. As the introduction has already been given, I'm the founder and director of Saintio Technologies. We are a Pune-based company. We are primarily focused on providing digital transformation solutions, and these solutions are in the various areas, catering to different types of industries, starting with manufacturing industry and going to services industries also. So with that brief introduction, I will go to the topic directly. General scenario during COVID-19. So I'm just going to sum up how the scenario was when COVID-19 came to India and next few months after that. This actually spread out ultra fast globally, and this was probably the first of an experience in centuries. People were quite baffled as a result of that. There were a lot of lockdowns and unlockdowns, and which were happening, and there were conflicting messages from local and central governments. It actually confused people in a way. While most of the public was having a general self-discipline, in terms of wearing masks, not venturing out, and keeping the social distance, etc. There were few groups or individuals which were placing their social behavior. So that also caused a kind of fear and anger between people. Confusion over containment and preventive measures. So there was confusion over containment and preventive measures declared by the governments from time to time. And people were not really able to figure out what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done, or what should be avoided completely. Then there were stringent travel and movement restrictions. So any movement initially in the lockdown period was completely restricted. Later on, some restrictions were lifted, and certain amount of movement was allowed by road, rail, and air. And at the end of it, when unlockdown happened, all the restrictions have been lifted. But still there is fear in the minds of people, and people are still taking a lot of care. There was initial euphoria about low numbers in India, in terms of the percentage as well as the absolute numbers, but it was replaced with pessimism about the rising toll of deaths and total cases. There was massive uncontrolled pan-India movement of labor. That was actually one of the major concerns during that time, which all of us remember. There were thousands of people gathering at railway stations and bus stations to catch the bus to go to their hometowns and all. There was severe shortage of PPE kits initially. There was lower rate of testing, and overall pictures of social stigma towards the health workers, which was quite shocking, because the same people who were trying to help us, we were actually beating them and all that. A lot of fake news were circling around on the social networks. Misleading information was spread by media. Contradicting statements were given at times by WHO, ICMR, and other agencies. So which again created a lot of confusion. Massive layoffs happened in the industry as a result of all the slowdown, and there were a lot of job losses across the industry and across all the hierarchy. So not just the junior level or senior level people were fired from the jobs, but a lot of people across the board, they lost their jobs. So with all that impact, how it impacted the Indian businesses. Successive lockdowns actually brought the business activities to a standstill. that was a very high impact on the manufacturing segment in particular, because some of the services sector industries were able to operate at least work from home and remotely. But when it comes to actual production, it was not possible to work from home, and therefore there was a heavy impact in terms of the overall manufacturing activity. There was reduced demand brought by many companies, which brought many companies to the edge of bankruptcy. So we have seen several companies declaring either negative growth or having gone bust in this particular period. Huge exodus of workmen actually led to problem of replacing skilled workforce. So that is another big problem even now, because a lot of people went to their hometowns or and then they never returned because they perhaps got jobs somewhere else. So replacing skilled workforce was a major problem. Reduced business activities translated into large scale layoffs, pay cuts, reduced new hiring, budget cuts, cutting down on non-essential spend. So the effect of all this was across the board. Companies were trying to cut down costs wherever possible. Businesses which were less impacted during this time, obvious reasons were, healthcare, pharmaceutical, medical equipment, online media and entertainment, insurance and professional services, which were all related to either the work from home culture which was coming in, or related to the healthcare services which were to be provided during this COVID time. Businesses which were most impacted obviously were the travel, tourism because of the complete ban, manufacturing again to a very large extent because the production activities were stopped, machines were down, there were no workforce to operate the machines. Real estate companies, construction, because people didn't have money to invest into real estate or in construction activities, and that didn't definitely remain a priority. Restaurants, multiplexes and malls, even till today, in many states, they are, either the restaurants are closed or semi-opened with a lot of restrictions in terms of the hygiene conditions and all that. Multiplexes and malls are still closed anyway in many states. So these were some of the businesses which were most impacted. Now, post-COVID unlockdown, there are certain businesses which are on recovery path. For example, e-commerce, companies like Amazon or Flipkart have started working full-fledged, and they are home delivering solutions with no contact deliveries and all. So people have become little less concerned about e-commerce, and they are availing those services. Online education is another industry which has boomed because of the job losses. A lot of people felt that this was a good time for upgrading their skills. And even the students who were, just passing out, they were unable to join the jobs, so they decided to do some further education. So online education actually proliferated quite a lot during this time. IT and ITES, obviously because of the work from home suits them, their business model the best. They actually are doing well. Logistics, again, because of the e-commerce and the movement of goods to some extent and services, it has improved. Online food delivery was another area which was earlier banned, but then slowly opened. And now a lot of people prefer getting online food delivery at home rather than going to the restaurants. Rise of digital marketing, the impact of COVID on that. Best non-contact medium. Obviously, digital marketing works best for the pull marketing, as Arijit had just summed up. It is most suitable for the growing work from home culture. Okay, so, because of the digital marketing, there is very little or no physical contact, and therefore it works very well. Less human dependence compared to the conventional marketing. So again, conventional marketing requires a lot of campaigns and physical meetings, road shows, and seminars and so on, which all has got replaced with the e-meetings, web meetings, and webinars and stuff like that. So there is a lot of human dependence which has been eliminated. It is less expensive, obviously, and it is faster than the conventional marketing. So you spend very, very little, and still you are able to reach out the masses much faster as a result of that. There is a huge potential to reach out a much larger global audience, and the target customers. So your markets are not anymore limited only to the local markets. You are able to reach global markets because of the spread of internet everywhere. Easier to communicate organizations' response to new government initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, Swachh Bharat, and so on. So government has also launched a lot of initiatives over the last few years, and we can actually, communicate the organization response using digital marketing through these initiatives. It opens a variety of communication avenues. Like one-on-one communication is possible, one-to-many is possible, audio or video media can be availed and exploited to the best, advertisements can be possible, digital campaigns, and so on. It brings the world very, very close. You can browse any product or service with the help of channels like YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, Flipkart, or Instagram, and so on. So the reach has definitely increased as a result of that. Some of the interesting trends in India. Now, here I have used some of the data sources like McKinsey and Company, some expert articles, and Neil Patel, for the digital trends. And some of the interesting trends, you can see the conversion growth or decline due to COVID across the various industries like advertising, agriculture, construction, all this. And there is positive impact on some of the industries like food, healthcare, media, and pharma, which was quite expected anyway. And the negative impact was on rest of the industries. So they have all registered negative growth as a result of it. There is a ROI on paid ads, which was before and after COVID-19, which has significantly increased post COVID-19 on paid ads. Then there is spectrum of purchasing loyalty exhibited by consumers around the world. This is quite interesting that India is actually, intend to continue on a much lesser percentage as compared to the rest of the world. So Indian consumers are basically, more willing to change to other brands or to change to different types of, mediums of purchasing as compared to the rest of the world. And most of the B2B companies in our survey, they actually shifted to go-to-market models in response to the COVID-19 crisis. So as you can see over here in the last bar chart, in-person or field sales team meeting with, face-to-face with customers has reduced, obviously. Inside sales teams also has reduced. Online support has gone up, and the e-commerce also has gone up. So obviously, it is the impact of the digital marketing and the digital transformation that is slowly taking place. Digital adoption has increased by 5 times in the last 3 months, even in industries which were previously quite rigid and shy. So industries which were technology agnostic or technology shy earlier, they have adopted to the digital transformation much more easily because it has become a necessity. Consumers from the age group of 35 to 44 age bracket increased their internet consumption by 11%, while the millennials observed an average increase of 5 to 7%. That is because millennials were already using the digital technologies very swiftly and very easily, whereas the age group 35 to 44 and above was taking time to get accustomed to it. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, everybody has witnessed rises in the number of sessions per week per user. Viewership of news channels in India grew by 57%. Advertising on news grew by 21%. So there is a huge impact of the COVID-19 situation. And as a result, you can see the digital marketing has become a necessity. I'll go to the next slide. Change landscape for Indian businesses. So accepted new normal, which is one of the most widely and loosely used terms. for simple steps like cover, sanitize, and keep distance. So the new normal has become a accepted normal for the industry. Digital transformation becomes a buzzword for businesses. Every mom and pop store also, you can see that they are actually finding out ways to reach out their customers using mobile marketing, digital media to interact and to gain some customers. And the problem is that today every customer is holed up in the safety net of their homes and working from home. So to attract them, digital transformation seems to be the only way to reach out. Increased use of digital payments for non-contact transactions, digital wallets usage has gone up. Increased use of social media advertising over print or mass media. Terms like CPP have replaced the CPP have been replaced by CPC, cost per click. People have been blogging to reach out local customers being used, this particular channel has been used by entrepreneurs and small businesses. Focus on survival, that is customer retention than growth. So survival has become a necessity. So even if you are not able to gain new customers or gain additional profit, at least stop the loss and adhere to the loyal customers. So customer retention has become key issue. Brake, shift gear, and accelerate. Now, adopting new product or services strategy that is making or trending on, trading in ventilators, masks, PPE kits. Many businesses I have seen that they have switched over from their existing product lines to manufacturing of ventilators, masks, PPE kits because that is the need of the hour. So that is how they have actually shifted the gears to align with the market requirements. And RK Lakshman's common man has become digital savvy. So that's one major gain as a result of this particular COVID pandemic. I would say that this has become sort of a boon in a way. And yeah, I'll just move on to the next and my last slide. Best digital marketing strategies, which should be adopted in 2021, in my opinion. Use more referral-based marketing. So you should be more dependent on reviews and ratings. Getting good reviews and ratings will ensure that you will get more customers. Use trending social media platforms. So you should know which are the social media platforms which are most popular, and you should be flexible enough to change to those platforms so that you can maximize your reach. Subtly use local micro-influencers. Micro-influencers are the people in your local community with whom you should be able to, from whom you will be seeking advice. And therefore you should, as a company, you should be able to identify such micro-influencers and use your advertisements through them rather than using celebrities for capturing local customers. Use local languages and dialects for better reach and connectivity. So since you have to reach nooks and corners of India, you should be able to communicate your message through the local languages and dialects. Cost of, modern tools such as, which are basically very low cost, such as text-to-speech, chatbots, video bots, video or graphic creation tools, animation tools should be increasingly used in order to reach out and in order to get your message across. Using SEO, website campaign analysis tools to check page visitors, traffic, CPC, CTR rates, all these things, they are basically helping you finding out the effectiveness of your digital marketing. Exploit the festival season, which is typically in India from August 2020 to January 2021 to the maximum. August to January is the period where most of our festivals are, and exploit that to the maximum because that is the time people are going to purchase. Leverage the ban on Chinese goods as an opportunity or a boon to gain hold in the Indian market, because we saw for several years Chinese goods were flooding the markets, but with the aggression across the border and the government measures which have been taken, I think this has come as a boon for the Indian businesses. And the last point is leverage government promotions of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Swachh Bharat and all these schemes. So that you can actually brand your products under Made in India or Atmanirbhar schemes and reach out people. there will be an emotional attachment to that Indian consumers will have. So with that, actually, I have just covered whatever points I wanted to put across. And I would like to take questions at the end of it.
Thank you so much. Sir, thank you so much. We now have a Q&A session. And also, Roshni has already typed the question. It is for Mr. Abhijit.
Yeah. Is a question from Mr. Vikas Pandey. It's a very good question, which I would like to take.
Yes, sir.
Whenever I'm purchasing online, the question is, in slide number 7 of your presentation, you mentioned best digital marketing strategies for 2020-21. Please advise best practices that can be followed by consumers to ensure authenticity of referral-based marketing and influencers. So the practice which I normally follow is that first of all, if I'm purchasing anything, I will purchase it from, as far as possible, a very well-known portal or a site where there would be hundreds and thousands of consumers who would be purchasing that particular or several products. So that will give me some kind of assurance that it is a trusted site. Second thing is, if I'm purchasing a particular product and if I'm checking the ratings and reviews of that product, what I will look for typically is anything above 4 stars is what I would normally look for if it is a 5-star rating maximum. So something which is reasonably good product has to have at least a 4-star rating given by a satisfied customer. Third thing I will look for is the number of reviews and ratings which have been published for that particular product. So if it is just few ratings, 1 or 2, and all of them are 5-star, then that is something which makes me a little doubtful about buying that. If it is a low-cost product, I don't mind taking my chances because maybe that particular product has been launched recently and purchased by few consumers. And it is really a good product which I may not want to miss. But if it is an expensive product, I would prefer, going for a lot of consumers who are vouching that they are happy with that particular product. And some of the indicators of true reviews or, there will be always some fake reviews which will be published by the sellers in order to show their products to be good for the new prospective clients. But then things like the portal is certifying that this is an authentic customer. That is one of the signs which I feel it's a kind of approval by the portal, and that I would definitely bank upon. Second thing which I would look for is are there any images or videos which have been posted in support of whatever rating or review that particular person has posted. And that will give me a confidence that yes, I mean, it is being supported, so that must be true. Third thing is, as far as possible, you look for the real persons. Most of the people who are putting their reviews and ratings, they should be named with their real names, because that is where we can associate that review with a real person. So these are the few of the indicators which I feel will help you in identifying the good reviews from the bad reviews. And one of the most important things is, out of the total number of reviews or ratings that are available, at least some percentage of those have to be genuinely low ratings, because there will be some unsatisfied customers in spite of whatever best product you may be selling. Reasons could be different. The person is not able to operate the product, or is not able to install the product, whatever it may be. But then he may end up giving a negative feedback, and those feedbacks also should be openly and transparently published. That is what I feel. These are some of the things, these are my thoughts. Sorry, there is also one more comment which has come from Roshni.
Yes.
I added a point.
Yeah.
been published for everyone. But that's a very good point she has mentioned. Indian Chamber of Commerce is launching a web store project in December, where they are exhibiting the crafts and products produced by local artisans. That's definitely an excellent initiative to encourage the local craft. And these people don't get a platform usually to advertise their products and to be able to reach out across India. And this will be an excellent opportunity for them. So anybody who wants to promote such kind of initiatives should be, encouraging the artisans that they know, and they should bring their craft or art to this particular platform, which will make it global.
And yeah, it was a wonderful session. Thank you so much, speakers. And would you guys like to say something about the interaction with us on this webinar?
Yes, it was a wonderful experience, and I could see there were a lot of participants also. So you are able to reach out to many key people, industry leaders. We would definitely like to participate in such events in the future also. Thank you very much for inviting, and that was wonderful.